Hello, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Tuesday. This is Brittany Washington, and I'm going to get a little bit closer. And we are here for our workshop today. Eat smart for your heart. So, we are going to be focusing on a lot of heart healthy foods to ensure that we are, of course, keeping ourselves healthy, keeping ourselves active, keeping ourselves healthy. I said healthy through what we intake. So, with no further ado, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to just start off with a couple of statistics before we get into, the nitty gritty of heart healthy foods that we can use and consume and substitute in place of more unhealthy foods. I want to read a couple of statistics because we are focusing on heart health this month. So, one of the statistics, and this is found off of the dietary guidelines for Americans for 2020 to 2025. So it has just recently been updated. Heart disease is the leading cause of death here in America, and about 18.2 million adults have coronary artery disease. And most common, which is the most common type of heart disease. Stroke is the fifth leading cause of death here in America, and about 45% of adults have hypertension. About 7% of children and adolescents actually have high cholesterol, and nearly 4% of adolescents already have hypertension. More Black adults, 54% than white adults, with 46% have hypertension. And that's just a few of the statistics. Getting that word is difficult for me to say today. But I mean, the list can go on and on and on when it comes to different types of heart diseases. One more that I did want to share with you is that heart disease or coronary heart disease is the leading cause. Actually, that's not the one I wanted to read. I already said that one, right? So this one, between 2015 and 2018, 126.9 million Americans had some form of cardiovascular disease. And between 2016 and 2017, directly and indirect costs for cardiovascular disease were 363.4 billion, and that is a combination of direct and indirectly. So I mean, billions and billions of billions and billions of dollars each year, or in between us, just on a regular basis, is used to either fight, combat, or goes into the idea of, heart health or heart disease. So that's just a couple of statistics just to get us started, to let us know that this is a really serious thing. I mean, how many of us probably know somebody with high blood pressure or high cholesterol or hypertension or even some form of heart disease going on out there? I mean, it's so common. We probably know not just one, but a handful of people that suffer from or have these conditions. So it's just not anything to play with, guys. I'm super happy that we're deciding to focus on heart health this month. And this one of the best ways, of course, with exercise and regular movement and activity, but nutrition is going to be a major, major, major part of our health, of our heart health. And so going into that, we've talked a little bit about portions before, but portions, what you eat and how much you eat is just as important as how much you eat. Because everything, of course, is in moderation, but when we start to overdo it, that's when it can become an issue. So one of the things, and I won't go deep into that because we had a portion control type situation workshop earlier, but it's super important because um ooh lost my train of thought, guys. But again, it's super important, again, portion control, because everything in moderation is good, but when we start to eat excess of it, that's when our body can really just can go in the wrong direction when it comes to health. So let's get into a couple of points when it comes to, I'm going to go through fruits and veggies. We're going to go through whole grains, what to look for, what not to look for, the benefits of some of these things. But of course, as we've you might have mentioned before, veggies, of course, fruits and vegetables are high in minerals. One of the things to be careful about when you're going for fruits and veggies, and when you're shopping for fruits and vegetables in the store, is to not try to go for um, a lot of the fruits that or vegetables that are canned or have a lot of sodium in them. That's again, you want to just be careful of just making sure you want to go for the more fresh. Fresh can include frozen. So even if it's not fresh from the produce aisles or anything like that, frozen vegetables and fruits are actually just are usually are a great option if what you're looking for goes bad quickly or whatever the case is. Low sodium canned vegetables. If you do go for canned, again, go for the low sodium or the no salt added. You want to look for that on the can. I've done this a couple of times. I've looked at a canned vegetable versus that says no sodium added or no salt added versus the one that doesn't. And I'm telling you, it will blow your mind how much additional sodium is added into the canned vegetables and, those types of things. Um, so that's that. If you remember, if you're in the grocery store one day, definitely think to do that and look at the nutritional facts and look at how much sodium. You compare how much sodium is in the one that has salt or low salt versus the one that has none. But a couple of things that you want to stay away from. Of course, the vegetables. We all love some, pasta with some vegetables or things like that. Be careful to stay away from the vegetables that have like creamy sauces or breaded and fried vegetables. Less the canned or heavy the fruits that are in like heavy syrup, and anything with additionally added fruits. Sugars. So again, that's just a couple of things when it comes to the fruits and vegetable aspect of it. Again, if we can go for fresh, go for fresh. If not, the alternatives, you just want to be careful that they don't add anything. A lot of times when we don't go for the whole foods or the fresh produce, there are a lot of additives that we might not necessarily know about. So again, that's with the fruits and the vegetables. Now, we want to talk about some grains. We want to go for whole grains. A lot of times, with when it comes to like the white breads or the refined, those types of things are processed or bleached. Again, a whole bunch of different additives. The whole grains are going to be great sources of fiber and other nutrients that play a role in regulating blood pressure and heart health. So the whole grains are what we want to look for. That includes like whole wheat flour, that includes like high fiber cereal with about 5 grams or more of fiber in them. So if you're going for some cereal and the heart healthy cereal, they have stuff like that out there. Look for the ones that are high in fiber, and that goes for fruits and vegetables too. They have a tons of fiber. The more of the whole and fresh produce and stuff that you eat that can be high in fiber as well. Also, like whole grains and your brown rices. If you want to be adventurous like your barleys and those types of things are also really good to experiment with, really good to try if you haven't tried it before. Again, we want to invest in our health now and be more conscious of it now so we don't have to worry about it later. Your oatmeal, your steel cut oatmeal, don't go for the Quaker oats in the packages, team, that has so much so much extra sugar and all that stuff. So you want to go for like the steel cut oats, the ones that don't have anything in them, because that way you can season them yourself, with a little bit of honey or whatever it is, but you know what you're putting into it. Some stuff to stay away from. We love our white rice. We love it, but we want to still try to go for more of the brown rices or the quinoas. Your white, your white refined flours, the good stuff, the stuff that, well, not technically good, but the tasty things like your waffles and your muffins and, biscuits and cakes and pies, all that good stuff. Yes, all of those, have their have their right and appropriate time, but overall let's be a little bit more conscious about the type of whole grains and wheats that we're putting into our body. A lot of them are just empty calories and full of sugar versus something that's a little bit more nutrient dense and nutritious and healthy for us. So that's just a handful of things when it comes to whole grains. Okay, So we're going to talk about some fats. Okay. So there are good fats, there are bad fats, there are well, fats that you probably do want to avoid and stay away from. And we're actually going to talk about that. So limiting fats and saturated fats and trans fats are very, very, very important because we consume probably a copious amount of just fats when it just because that's just the fat stuff is what tastes good, right? So but when you reduce those fats, like when you reduce like some trans fats and those saturated fats, and I'll get into that just a little bit, it definitely will help reduce blood cholesterol and lower your risk of coronary artery disease. So, if we continue to eat a lot of fats, a lot of times that fat can get into our blood, into our arteries, and start to clog that up. And that's where a lot of these heart conditions come from. So, and I'm just going to read this stat or this fact that I read. A high blood cholesterol can lead to a buildup in plaques in your arteries. Is actually very similar to what I just said. Card, um, which can increase your risk of heart attack and stroke. Okay, so again, that build up, we don't want the build up, so we don't want all of those additional fats going into our system. All right, so when according to Association of American Heart Association, guys, I'm getting so tongue tied here today. Um, for when it comes to saturated fats, you want no more than 11 to 13 grams of saturated fat if you follow roughly a 2,000 calorie a day diet. And that will break down to probably 5 or 6% of your total daily calories. And so that is saturated fat. That is not a terrible fat, but the fat we do want to stay away from is what is called trans fat. Trans fat is a big no-no. Because that, I mean, that's it's just it's very dangerous for you if eaten a lot of. So reducing the amount of saturated fat in your diet by trimming fat off of your meat. So if of course, if you eat animal based animal based proteins. A lot of times when you see in the store, you have, there's fat still on it. Some people like the fat, when you're cooking bacon. Some people like the fatty edges instead of crisping them up. Those kinds of things, guys, can really add up and add that a lot of that unwanted fat into your system. So using less butter or margarine when cooking, don't use as much. If you want to still use it, of course, use it. There are healthier choices out there. But if you still definitely have to use it or want to use it, use less of it. Use less of it, which is, and use like something like olive oil or anything like that, kind of to supplement that. Um, are also great options. Another thing that you can use, like I have an example here for your baked potato. You can use like some low sodium salsa instead of you know dolloping that sour cream on there. Maybe you can use a low fat yogurt or you know or rather than butter or something like that to still give you that fatty content and that that creamy sensation and feel if that's what you like. If not, to each his own. But you also want to, again, when it comes talking to the trans fats, this is one thing that I actually wanted to really make sure I pinpoint to you guys. When it comes to, checking your food labels, you want to also, even though some things say, labeled as reduced fat, you want to be careful because they may be made with oils containing those trans fats. And a clue, this was a really cool fact that I found out in preparation for today. It says one clue that food has some trans fat in it is with the phrase partially hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated in the ingredients list. So if you happen to look in the ingredients list, if you're like, well, this says it doesn't have any trans fat or has a little bit of it, one of the verbal or written clues that you can use is if it has partially hydrogenated, that'll let you know that more than likely there's trans fat in there, which is what we want to stay away from. All right, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on from there, and I'm gonna give you a list of um, fats, different healthier fats to choose, other fats to not. You kind of want to stay away from. All right. So your healthier fats, they contain what is called polyunsaturated fats. And that's the fats, that are in your fishes, your avocado, your nuts and seeds and all those types of things. Those are better fats. Those are a better type of fat to make sure you steer towards. So good. I'm so tongue tied today. I don't know what's going on, guys. I apologize. So olive oils, canola oils, vegetables and nut oils are ones you want to like choose a little bit more over. Cholesterol lowering margarine, and they have some examples here like Smart Balance or Benico or Promise Active are different brands that are listed here. Of course, some to stay away from. You want to stay away from when it comes to fats. You want to limit different types of condiments. We want to stop a little bit right there because the condiments, I love sauces, different types of sauces, different types of just condiments in general. Those add a whole bunch of sugars and salts and fats and all those types of things, if you overdo it. So sometimes, when you go to a restaurant and you get like Alfredo, and it's completely, your pasta is completely doused in that Alfredo sauce, you have to think about how much salt and sugar, salt and butter and fats are all in there too. So just a couple of things, to keep in mind in addition to that, like your canned soups can have a whole lot of those additional fats, unwanted fats, in there as well. And so when it comes to your proteins, you want to be careful. You want to go for more lean proteins. Again, like I mentioned before, sometimes those fats can be, on your chicken still. Make sure you cut those off. But proteins, you want to stick with lean protein. I mean, lean protein like poultry, and fish, and eggs are some of the best sources of those leaner type of proteins. But if you do, you know, you do kind of want to stay away from more of the red meat because that again, that's a little bit, um, a little bit more unhealthy, if you will, for your heart. Is not the best. It's not the best option out there. You want to stay with a little bit more leanness to your cuts. Different fishes have great what is it called, omega-3 fatty acids. So they're awesome. They're awesome for your heart, and those can help lower blood fats, uh, triglycerides, but basically just sugars, and lower blood fats in your body. So examples of good fish of when it comes to that type are, salmon, your mackerel, things of that nature. Herring are also great options. Even and if you're not more of a animal protein consumer, different things like your flaxseed, your walnuts, um, your beans are also great sources of protein, with not as much fat, that you would be able to consume. An example here, substituting more plant-based option proteins, going for a black bean burger or something like that instead of the red meat, instead of the hamburger. Um, also are great sources. Just, trying different things. So, things to choose in things or more proteins you can choose from. More of the skinless. Oh God, don't we love some skin? We love the skin because it gets crispy and all that stuff. If you want to reduce some of that fat, and just get a little bit more healthier for your heart, go for skinless options. Skinless chicken breast, skinless chicken thighs. Those have a little bit higher fat content in them, but it's still skinless. So it's a little bit less. Those types of situations, definitely, or the lower percent when it comes to, or lower percent fat when it comes to like your yogurts, your Greek yogurts, that kind of stuff. Um, Eggs or egg whites are also a great source of protein. So things that you kind of want to try to stay away from: your bacon, your breaded meats, full fat milks. If you want to try to go for a little bit more of the plant based milks, those are great options too. Um, the fatty meats, like the marbled meats with the fat kind of ingrained in them, are good, are options to try to stay away from. Your hot dogs and your sausages, because those are super processed. A lot of things are ground up and put into them. So again, knowing what it is, what knowing what it is you're eating are great. We're gonna get ready to talk about some sodium. We're almost done here, but I've mentioned and I tapped on it a little bit earlier. Your sodium, um, guys, sodium is a big problem because they add so much salt into a lot of the things that we consume. Um, eating sodium in high contents can definitely contribute to just high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and is a great risk factor for cardiovascular diseases. Reducing sodium is very important, and a lot of times we don't put as much emphasis on it like we do, like eating your fruits and vegetables. But definitely bringing down the sodium, bringing down sodium content and intake that we eat is major. So the American Heart Association recommends that healthy adults have no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day. Um, and in parentheses, it says it's about a teaspoon of salt. Most adults ideally have no more than 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day. So again, we have to be able to know what it is we're eating. What if we go for the no salt added, we are able to control what it is we put into our diets or into our food. We a lot of options out there to still add flavor without a whole bunch of salt. Your herbs and spices, they add so much flavor to what it is we're eating. Low sodium options or no salt options, they have plenty of those, and they'll be labeled um, even when it comes to your seasonings and stuff like that. So, one thing you do want to be careful of, and I actually did kind of mention this a little bit earlier, are the store bought soups and the frozen dinners and the cans of soup and vegetables and beans. Yeah, those have are loaded with salt. Loaded with salt. So I would highly recommend, and those condiments that I touched on too, loaded with salt, not just like additional fats and stuff, but salts as well. So again, we really want to be a little bit more cognizant, making our own soup. Again, going for those whole foods, going for those fresh foods. And then when we do season things using stuff like herbs and spices, s- reduce salt versions of condiments and all of those things. It's so possible, it's so doable to be able to live healthier and still be happy with what we're eating. And of course, allow yourself some fun every now and again, but don't let the fun be your everyday diet. That's really what it boils down to, team, is just being more conscious of what it is we're eating. Um, Again, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol is so common in America because of the American diet, the processed foods, the high calorie foods, the high fat foods that we eat, because it's quick, it's easy, it's convenient. So what I would challenge us to do is to find options that are healthy, that are wholesome, that are nutrient dense, that don't have a whole lot of caloric value. And start to incorporate it little by little into our diets. So things to kind of stay away from when it comes to the salts, like I mentioned, canned soups and prepared foods like frozen dinners and table salt, table salt, the condiments, tomato juices, the restaurant meals, man. I mean, of course, there are now we're in a society where things are becoming a little bit more health bound, which is phenomenal. But we still have those places where you just like some just good cooking, right? So just being able to one understand that whatever we receive at a restaurant is probably double or triple portion and serving sizes that we really should be consuming. So we really shouldn't aim to eat the whole plate. Take a little bit until we're satisfied and save it for later. Um, but just in addition to that, just going for the outside ring of the grocery stores. Usually those are your healthier choices when it comes to we want to stay away from the inside aisles where you have the cookies and the brownies and the sodas and the chips and those kinds of things, guys. So that's just a few things, a few choices when it comes to eating healthy, eating a little bit more consciously or choosing food a little bit more consciously when it comes to being and having heart health. So of course all of this is coupled with exercise and daily activity and those kinds of things, but being a little bit more conscious, and just taking the time out to invest in our health. I know we're in a culture, in a world that's so on the go. Another tip that I have is to try different style. What's the word? Different style diets. I'm lacking the word right now, but going for more, Indian diet or Mediterranean diet. I've been reading a Mediterranean diet is already very, very high in a lot of those things that we want, like your lean cut proteins, like your low sodium and more of your whole and your fresh produce. Try something new. Try some Mediterranean dishes, try some Greek dishes, try some Indian dishes. Be creative. We have to be creative so we don't get bored of just trying to be healthy, and invest in it now so you don't have to pay those millions and billions of dollars that I talked about, as a result of you know, being diagnosed with some of these conditions. But guys, I hope that helped somebody today. I hope you received a lot. I hope you learned a lot. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. My name is Brittany Washington. So my email is brittany.washington@coxautoinc.com. And that is all that I have for our Eat Smart for Your Heart workshop. And I will see you guys next time.